Ben had no idea what to expect when he joined the cultural exchange program. He was an engineer, not a diplomat, but when Earth asked for volunteers to live with an alien species for 6 months, he said yes, maybe out of curiosity, maybe because he wanted to do something different. He didn't think it would be that hard. Then he met Leora. She was tall, graceful, and calm, with skin that shimmered faintly under the twin suns of her planet. She belonged to a species called the Halari. They were peaceful, smart, and deeply honest, but they also had one strange habit. They didn't understand privacy at all. The moment Ben entered his new home on the alien world, he knew he was in trouble. Leora followed him everywhere. She didn't just show him the kitchen or his room, she stayed. When he unpacked his things, she watched closely. When he brushed his teeth, she stood nearby, asking why he used mint. When he got into bed that first night, she sat on the floor beside him. "What are you doing?" he asked, confused. "I'm observing," Leora said with a soft voice. "I am to learn about human living." Ben sighed and turned to the wall. "Do you have to observe me while I sleep?" "Yes," she answered. "You are alone. It might mean you are sick or sad." "No, I'm just tired." "I see. I will make notes." The next morning, he found her in the bathroom, trying to use his toothbrush. That's when he realized something important. To the Halari, there were no private spaces. Everything was shared. Emotions, thoughts, rooms, nothing was kept secret. They believed hiding things led to distrust. If you wanted to be close to someone, you shared everything. But Ben was human, and humans needed space. Over the next few days, Ben tried to teach her about personal boundaries. He closed doors. He locked the bathroom. He used translation software to explain why privacy was normal on Earth. Leora listened, but her bright blue eyes stayed confused. "So, when you are alone, you are not in danger." "No." "You are not upset." "No." "But you want to be away from others by choice." "Yes." She tilted her head. This is strange. It wasn't just strange to her. It was deeply wrong. And Ben started to notice her reactions. Every time he pulled away, Leora would get quiet. Not angry, not sad, just quiet. She followed him less, but still appeared around corners. Once, when Ben locked his bedroom door, he found her sitting outside in the hallway the next morning. "Were you out here all night?" he asked. Double quotes. "Yes. I was waiting for you to feel better." "I was just sleeping." "Then why lock the door?" He had no answer that made sense to her. He tried a new method. He drew small red circles around his bed and desk and told her they were private zones. She respected them for about 10 minutes before stepping in to ask if he wanted fruit. Every time Ben thought he was clear, she found a way around it. She didn't mean harm. She was curious, respectful, even. But her idea of respect came from closeness, not distance. One evening, after a long day at the research center, Ben came home to find Leora sitting at his desk, reading one of his old journals. It wasn't locked, but still, it felt like a line had been crossed. "This is a memory book?" she asked. "Yes," he said, his voice tight. "It's personal. It is your thoughts. I wanted to know what makes you feel joy and fear. But it wasn't for you to read." She looked down. "On my world, we share thoughts. It helps us understand each other. But on my world, we don't. Some thoughts are private." She was silent for a long moment. Then she stood and handed him the journal. "I apologize. I believe I was doing something kind." Ben saw that she was truly sorry. He softened. "I know you didn't mean anything bad. But if I'm going to live here, and you're going to live with me, we need to set rules." "Rules?" "Yes, about space, about privacy." She nodded. Slowly, "Then I must learn." That night, Ben wrote on a small board, "Do not enter without asking." He placed it on his door. He wasn't sure if she would follow it, but it was a start. When he turned off the lights, he could still feel her presence nearby, just outside, curious, watching. Not to spy, but to understand. He whispered to himself, "This is going to be a long 6 months," yet, somewhere deep down, he knew it wouldn't be boring. The next morning, Ben woke up to the smell of warm herbs and something sweet. He walked out of his room and found Leora standing in the kitchen, holding a bowl. "I made food for your waking," she said. "You seemed low in energy yesterday." Ben rubbed his eyes. "Thanks. That's nice of you," she smiled, clearly proud. But he noticed something. His door sign was gone. "Where's the do not enter board?" he asked. "It fell," she said quickly. "I cleaned it." "Did you come in while I was sleeping?" "Only to see if you were breathing well. It was quiet. I thought you might be broken." Ben sighed. She still didn't get it. He sat at the table and tasted the food. It was surprisingly good, soft, warm, and a little spicy. Leora watched his every bite like it was a science test. "How does your body respond?" she asked. Tastes good. Then I will record this flavor for future mornings." He chuckled. She really did treat everything like an experiment, but still, she cared. He could see that now. After breakfast, Ben set up a small space for himself in the side room, a spot where he could work, think, and relax. He placed a blue curtain over the entrance and told Leora, "This is my focus space. If the curtain is closed, I'm working. Okay?" She nodded. "I will observe." Quietly. "No, not observe. Just give me space." "I see," she said, though she clearly didn't. For the first hour, she stayed away. Ben began fixing a circuit board and humming to himself. But then he heard soft footsteps. The curtain moved just a little. "Leora," he said without looking up, "are you behind the curtain?" A pause. "Yes. Why? You were quiet. I thought you might be asleep while sitting." "I'm working." "But your body was still." "It is hard to tell." Ben stood up and gently pulled the curtain open. There she was, crouched, holding a small notepad. "I appreciate your care," he said, trying not to sound annoyed. "But please trust me. When I say I'm fine, I mean it." "I want to trust you," she replied, "but in my mind, trust means watching." Ben didn't have the heart to be angry. She was trying, in her own strange way. So he decided to try something new. "How about this?" he said. "I'll show you how humans use privacy in a positive way. Not for hiding, but for peace. And after that, you can try it too." Leora blinked. "You want me to be alone?" "Just for a short time." "But what will I do?" "You can read, or sit, or think, alone." "Yes? That sounds strange." But she agreed. He gave her a book from Earth, a children's picture book, simple and colorful. He pointed to the garden outside. "You sit there. I'll be inside. No watching, no peeking. We'll meet again in 1 hour." She walked out, slowly, holding the book like it was a strange tool. Ben stayed inside, watching through a tiny window. She sat on a rock, opened the book, flipped a few pages, then looked around. After 5 minutes, she stood up, paced, sat down again. She clearly didn't know what to do. After 1 hour, she came back. She paused, searching for the right word. "Quiet. And how do you feel?" "Strange. I didn't hear anyone." "I thought the planet had paused." "Did you feel scared?" "No. Just small." Ben smiled. "Sometimes feeling small is okay. It reminds us to breathe." She nodded slowly. "Your kind is very different." "Yes, but we can learn." That evening, Ben and Leora shared dinner together. They didn't speak much. She didn't ask questions. He didn't explain anything. They just ate. It was the first quiet moment they truly shared, and it felt good. Before going to his room, Ben placed the sign back on the door. This time, he added a second one with a green circle. He turned to Leora. "Red means don't enter. Green means you can knock." "I like this," she said. "It gives me a way to respect your space. And you, I will try the garden again. Maybe twice a day." They smiled at each other. He entered his room and closed the door gently. Outside, for the first time, Leora didn't wait by the door. Ben thought things were finally improving. The color signs were working, and Leora was trying her best to follow them. She didn't sit outside his door anymore. She even spent more time in the garden with her picture book. She still peeked in sometimes, but now she asked first. But it didn't last long. One quiet afternoon, Ben returned from the research center and walked into the shared home. Everything looked normal at first. The kitchen was clean, and the lights were dimmed. But when he reached his room, he stopped. His door was open. He clearly remembered leaving it closed, with the red sign hanging on the handle. "Leora," he called. "Yes," her voice came from behind him. He turned around. She stood there holding his journal again. The same journal he had told her was personal. She wasn't reading it this time, but she had it in her hands. "Why are you holding that?" he asked, trying to stay calm. "I saw it on your bed," she said softly. "I remembered you said it is special. I only wanted to return it to a safe place. But you were in my room, with the red sign, yes? But the door was slightly open. I thought that meant it was okay." Ben walked past her, placed the journal back on the shelf, and sat on the edge of his bed. "We talked about this. Red means don't enter. Not even a little." Leora stepped forward. "I didn't mean to break the rule." "I know," he said, "but it feels like you're testing me. Every time I think you understand, something happens." She sat down on the floor, looking unsure. "I don't test you to hurt you. I test to learn. My kind learns through trial and error. If something is unclear, we try again until we understand it fully. But this isn't just a science test," Ben said. "This is my space, my mind, my peace." Leora's face grew serious. "On my world, we show love by learning someone deeply. Every move, every pause, every change. We share air, meals, and thoughts. The idea of leaving someone alone, it's frightening. Frightening how it feels like forgetting someone exists, like watching a star go dark." Ben didn't know what to say to that. To him, being alone was rest. To her, it was loss. After a long silence, he stood up and offered her a chair. "Okay, sit here. We need to talk, clearly." She climbed into the chair slowly. "Look," Ben said, "I understand that we're different, and I respect your way of living. But when you enter my room without asking, it feels like you're stepping inside my mind without permission." She lowered her eyes. "That sounds scary to me, to be kept outside. But it's not forever. I let people in, just not all the time. Some moments, I need to be with myself." Leora was quiet for a while. Then she reached into her small pouch and pulled out a shiny white stone. She placed it gently on Ben's table. "This is my memory stone," she said. "I carry it since birth. We give it only to those we trust completely." Ben looked at the stone, surprised. "You're giving this to me?" "Yes," she said. "I want you to know that I trust you, even if I don't always understand your ways." He picked up the stone and held it carefully. It felt warm, like it had been in sunlight. It was smooth and light, but he could feel the meaning behind it. "Thank you," he said. "This means a lot." They sat together in silence, not uncomfortable, not tense, just quiet. After a moment, Ben spoke again. "I think maybe we can both learn. I'll try to be more open, and you try to respect when I need space." "Like trading habits?" she asked. "Exactly." Leora nodded slowly. "Then I will try harder not to enter unless you call me, and I'll invite you in more often. Deal?" "Deal." That night, Ben placed the memory stone beside his pillow. Before going to sleep, he placed the green sign on his door instead of the red one. Leora didn't enter, but she knocked gently and asked, "Do you wish to talk before rest?" "Sure," Ben said, smiling. "Just for a little while." And for the first time, they spoke without confusion, just as two people learning to understand one another. Ben and Leora slowly started finding a balance. The green and red signs helped more than either of them expected. When the green sign was up, Leora would knock, wait, and speak softly. If the red sign was there, she didn't enter. Not even once. Ben appreciated her effort, and Leora seemed proud of herself every time she followed the rule. She made a small note in her data book with a happy mark beside it. She treated their agreement like an important mission. Still, Ben could tell she was holding back her natural curiosity. One afternoon, Ben returned early from the research center. He found Leora sitting in the garden, holding her picture book. Again, she looked calm, but something about her face showed deep thought. You okay? He asked. Walking over, she looked up. Yes, but I have a question. A new one. Ben sat beside her. Go ahead. What do you keep inside your dreams? He blinked. My dreams. Yes, you are still. But your face changes. Your breath becomes fast. Sometimes you make sounds. What are you hiding? I'm not hiding anything, he said with a chuckle. Dreams just happen. They're not planned. But you don't tell me about them. Ben paused. Because, well, most people don't share their dreams unless they want to. They can be personal or confusing. Leora frowned. So, even in your sleep, privacy exists? I guess so. And you choose not to share even when I ask kindly? Yes, Ben said gently. Because some dreams are mine alone. She nodded, but her eyes stayed on him like she was reading a puzzle. The next day, Ben noticed something new. A small device was placed near his bed. It looked like a sound recorder. Leora, he called. She came in with her hands behind her back. Yes, what's this thing by my bed? It's a sleep monitor. I wanted to understand your dreams without disturbing you. Ben raised an eyebrow. You recorded me? Only sounds. I didn't watch. He sighed. Leora, that still feels like a privacy issue. She looked guilty. I thought maybe you would be proud. I tried to study quietly. Ben sat down. I know you're trying. I know you don't mean any harm. But let me explain something very important. She listened carefully. Privacy isn't just about hiding something, he said. It's about trust. If I tell you something, it means I chose to. If you take it without asking, even if it's small, it feels wrong. It breaks the trust. Leora's eyes widened. So when I record your sleep, I take something without permission, yes? She slowly walked to the monitor and picked it up. Then I will not use it again. Ben smiled. Thank you. That means a lot. But Leora wasn't done. I still want to understand you better. Is there another way? Ben thought for a moment. Then an idea came to him. How about this? We do a memory trade. Memory trade, yes. We take turns telling each other something from our past, something important. Leora looked excited. I like this method. That evening, they sat together on the soft cushions in the living area. Ben went first. He told her about his first day at the Space Academy, how nervous he was, and how a kind teacher gave him a small gear-shaped charm to remind him that even small parts can make big machines work. Leora listened with shining eyes. When he finished, she opened her pouch and pulled out a folded cloth. This is from my joining day, she said. It's part of the robe I wore when I was accepted into the Guardian class. My mother gave it to me. Ben held the cloth gently. It had faded colors, but the stitching was beautiful. They continued the trade for many nights, one memory at a time. Happy ones, sad ones, funny ones, and with each story, they grew closer. Soon, Leora stopped testing Ben's space. She no longer peeked through curtains or stood outside his door. Instead, she waited for the green sign, and Ben, seeing her effort, started inviting her in more often. They shared meals, laughter, and even moments of quiet where no words were needed. They didn't just understand each other. They respected each other, and though Leora still had questions, she always asked first. Weeks passed, and the house felt calmer now. Ben and Leora had found a rhythm. He no longer had to remind her to knock, and she didn't wait by his door anymore. Instead, she created her own quiet space in the garden and spent time there daily. She even began writing in a small journal of her own, something new for her kind. One afternoon, Ben noticed her standing in the hallway, holding a small white card. What's that? He asked. An invitation, she said proudly. You often invite me to your space. Now I invite you to mine. He took the card and read the simple words, Come when the sky is orange. We will share silence together. Ben smiled. I'll be there. At sunset, he walked to the garden and found Leora sitting on a flat stone, her eyes closed. He sat beside her without saying a word. The air was warm, and the sky glowed orange and pink. Birds with long tails flew quietly above them. After a while, Leora spoke. Does this feel like privacy or sharing to you? Maybe both. Ben replied. That's what I wanted. They stayed there, peaceful. No testing, no rules, just quiet company. But not everything was perfect. The next morning, Ben received a message from the Earth Cultural Exchange Council. The message was short but serious. Subject: Behavior report received from Halari Observation Team. Human subject Ben possibly showing signs of antisocial isolation. Advise a full wellness check. Ben stared at the message, confused. Antisocial? I've been doing better than ever. He showed the message to Leora. She looked nervous. I think I may have reported something wrong, she said. What do you mean? A few weeks ago, when you locked your door and didn't speak much, I told the central observers that you were withdrawing. In my culture, that is a big concern. I didn't know humans do that normally. Ben laughed a little. But kindly, you were just trying to help, she frowned. I didn't want them to think you were broken. He replied gently, you didn't break anything. You just gave them the wrong idea. They both sat in silence. Then Leora stood up. I will send another message. I will explain what I've learned. Ben smiled. Thank you. Later that day, she did just that. Her new report included phrases like humans recharge alone, privacy is not danger, and trust does not always mean presence. The Human Council replied 2 days later with a simple note. Thank you for your correction. Subject: Ben appears stable. Communication logs now reflect shared learning. Ben showed Leora the message. See, now we're both teaching. She looked proud. I want more of this. More learning. More peace. Ben nodded. Me too. But the peace didn't last long. One evening, Ben returned to his room and found something strange. His drawers were open, and some of his personal items were on the bed. Photos, old letters, and a broken music player. He stepped back into the hall. Leora, she appeared quickly, holding a data pad. I was organizing your items. Why? I saw a pattern in how you placed them, but some were upside down. I thought it was a mistake. They were messy because I left them that way. I didn't want them touched. Her face fell. I didn't mean to upset you. Ben took a deep breath. I know, but Leora, this is still about privacy. Even if something looks disorganized, it doesn't mean it needs fixing. She looked confused. But in my home, we fix everything for those we care about. Sometimes, humans need space for their mess. Not just physical things, but emotions too. We don't always want someone to organize our thoughts. She sat down on the floor. Your species is so strange. Maybe, Ben said, smiling. But so is yours. He began picking up his things, putting them back the way he liked. Then he paused and looked at her. Next time you want to understand something, ask. She nodded. I promise. The next day, Leora made a new sign and placed it outside Ben's room. It said, Space belongs to the soul. Please knock on both. Ben read it and chuckled. I think you're starting to get it. Leora replied with a small smile. I still don't fully understand, but now I know it matters. Ben sat at his desk, fixing a small tool he had brought from Earth. The room was quiet. Outside the window, the wind moved through the silver leaves of the garden trees. It was peaceful, just how he liked it, but his mind wasn't calm. Something was bothering him. It wasn't Leora. Not exactly. She had been trying harder than ever. She knocked now, always waited, and even spent hours by herself without asking for attention. She was doing her best to understand human behavior, but Ben could feel something changing between them. It wasn't just about space anymore. It was about connection. He looked up when he heard a soft knock. Green sign is up, Leora said from the hallway. Come in, Ben replied. She entered holding a small wooden box. I made something for you. He raised an eyebrow. You made me something? She placed the box on his desk and opened it. Inside were 7 smooth stones, each painted a different color. They had little symbols carved into them: a door, a sun, a moon, a hand, a book, a heart, and a star. What are these? Ben asked. Picking up the stone with the heart, emotions, she said. On my world, we use them to tell others how we feel without words. When you place one outside your door, it sends a message. Ben smiled. So, it's like mood stones? Yes, the heart means you feel open. The book means you are busy learning. The star means you want to be inspired. And the door means you want space. Ben was impressed. This is actually really thoughtful. I thought if I understand your emotions better, I won't need to guess so much. He nodded. It's a great idea. For the next few days, the mood stones worked better than anything else. Ben used the book when he needed focus. Leora respected it every time. He used the star when he wanted quiet company, and she would bring a pillow and sit nearby, doing her own thing. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes she would misread a symbol and come in too early, but she always apologized, and Ben didn't feel annoyed anymore. In fact, he looked forward to her gentle knocks and careful questions. One night, after placing the heart stone outside, he found her waiting in the hallway with 2 mugs of warm tea. I saw the heart, she said. I was hoping you'd notice. They sat in the living room, sipping tea. The air was quiet, but not empty. It felt like 2 minds resting together. I've been thinking, Ben said after a while. When this exchange ends, I'll have to go back to Earth. Leora looked down at her cup. Yes, I know, and I wonder what you'll remember most from this time. She looked up. Your silence. Ben blinked. My silence? Yes, when I first arrived, silence scared me. I thought it meant something was wrong. But you showed me it can mean peace, safety, and even care. He smiled softly. And you showed me that presence doesn't have to feel heavy. It can feel like a soft blanket. They laughed quietly. The next morning, Ben walked into the garden and found something new. Leora had built a small wooden wall beside her reading stone. It wasn't tall, but it marked her own space clearly. He raised an eyebrow. She looked up from her book and said, My own privacy area. Really? Yes, I call it my quiet nest. And does it help? Very much, she said. When I sit here, I don't feel forgotten. I feel balanced. Ben nodded. Now you're starting to sound human. She smiled proudly. Or maybe humans are starting to sound Halari. Later that day, they received a message from the Cultural Council. It said the exchange period was nearing its end. Ben had only 2 weeks left. When Leora read it, she grew quiet. You're going soon, she said. Yes. Ben replied, but I'll carry everything you taught me, and I will carry your silence. They didn't speak much after that, but their eyes said enough. The time they spent learning, testing, and adjusting had built something strong. A friendship formed across 2 very different worlds. As Ben returned to his room that night, he saw something new beside the green and red signs. A new stone. Clear one. He picked it up and read the tiny word carved into it. Both. He smiled. Yeah, he whispered to himself. Sometimes it's both. The final day came faster than Ben expected. The morning sky over the Halari city was soft purple, and the wind felt gentle on his skin. His things were packed. The ship from Earth would arrive by evening to take him home. Ben stood in his room, looking at the empty shelves and the green sign still hanging on his door. He had kept it there even after Leora stopped needing reminders. It had become a symbol, not just of space, but of trust. He heard soft footsteps behind him. I didn't knock, Leora said with a small smile. I thought today you wouldn't mind. Ben turned and smiled back. You guessed right. She stepped inside and looked around. It feels strange to see your space like this. Yeah, it doesn't feel like mine anymore. They sat down, together on the floor, just like they had on the first week. But this time the air between them felt full, not empty. They didn't need to explain who they were. They already knew. Do you feel ready to return? Leora asked. I think so, Ben replied. But it's not easy. Because of the distance? Because of the memories, he said. I came here thinking I'd teach you something, but you ended up teaching me more. She tilted her head slightly. Then we both win. Ben chuckled. Yes, we do. They spent the morning doing small things together, folding blankets, checking the garden, and preparing simple meals. It wasn't about doing anything important. It was about being together, one last time, without noise or worry. In the afternoon, Leora handed him a small round object wrapped in soft fabric. What's this? Ben asked. Open it later. On the ship. He nodded. And what about you? Will you keep the mood stones? Yes, she said proudly, and I made a few more. I gave one to each of my friends. Ben's eyes widened. Really? Yes. I told them what each one means. Now we all have little signs outside our rooms. They call them Ben's symbols. He laughed. That's kind of amazing. You started a quiet revolution. They walked together to the landing area when the sun began to lower. The ship from Earth hovered above, slowly descending. Its lights cast long shadows on the ground. A few Halari guardians came to greet it, but Ben barely noticed them. He was focused on Leora. As the ship's door opened, she looked at him with calm eyes. Will you forget me? Never, Ben said. How could I? Humans are surrounded by noise. I wonder if you'll still remember the silence we shared. I'll carry it with me, he said, placing a hand over his heart, like your memory stone. She nodded. Then I'm at peace. Before he stepped onto the ship, she did something she had never done before. She took a step back and gave him space, real space. This is my gift, she said. I stay here. Not to hold you, but to honor your path. Ben felt a lump in his throat. Thank you. He turned and walked up the ramp, but just before the door closed, he looked back one last time. Leora stood still, the soft wind moving her long robe, her face calm and proud. Hours later, as the stars filled the windows of the ship, Ben remembered the gift she had given him. He carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a tiny silver model of a door, no taller than his thumb. Engraved on it were the words, "Trust opens quietly." He held it gently and smiled. The stars outside looked brighter now. He wasn't just going home. He was carrying a piece of another world, one filled with strange rules, beautiful silence, and a friend who once didn't understand privacy, but ended up understanding something far more important. Connection. And as the ship moved farther away, Ben closed his eyes. He could still feel the peace of that garden, the sound of her soft footsteps, and the quiet that no longer felt empty.